Party's not a party's a man who fights crime, and we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Bat Minute of the Phantasm. This is the podcast that always makes you want to laugh and think about Batman Mask of the Phantasm 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
I am your other host, John Parker, and I never make you want to laugh because I'm just serious all the time. I'm very dark and brooding.
It's been a real buzzkill. The last 4 seasons have been, oh boy.
I'm here to bring things down and make you depressed.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, it's a pretty dark minute. But we got to come up here like, oh, I love this minute. I love this minute so much. But we've got, as is our wont, we do have, once again, a guest to join us for this minute. Recurring guest. It is film producer and Danny DeVito Prom Girl. It is Allison Closs.
Hello. Hey, howdy, hey, y'all.
Woo. It's been a little while. When was the last time? Did you miss last year? Did we? I can't remember.
I wasn't on last year. This is my third time on. So the first one was for Batman Returns because Danny DeVito was in it.
Yes,
and the second one was Batman and Robin, I think.
Oh, that was last year, yeah. I think you were in for like some of the Nora Freeze stuff, I want to say.
Yeah, with the Arnold, because I have like a cardboard Arnold too. So.
I think it just seems like a billion years ago we were doing that movie.
I do have to ask up front, do you have a cardboard Mark Hamill anywhere in the house currently, or could you get one?
Tragically, I do not. Fortunately, I could.
You still just got like, whatever. what the cardboard cutout people are like, whatever you need, Allison. Whenever.
What Mark Hamill would you want? Would you think would be like the best one to have? Like classic Mark Hamill or a specific movie?
Oh, okay.
I'll go for specific movie though, because you want to. It's more of a because people see Luke Skywalker, they're like, well, I know what that is. But if they see him like wearing like a Red Sox cap and like a mustache, you'd be like, is this Mark Hamill going to the store or something? It's like, no, this is Mark Hamill in 1993's Body Bags.
Okay, I'm torn.
something really obscure, just like, this is Mark Hamill in Child's Play 2019, obviously.
I'm so torn, because logic would say get him from like Empire Strikes Back, but it's much, much funnier this way. Just him going like to buy his shopping.
But yeah, we're here today to talk specifically about minute 56 of Mask of the Phantasm. It opens with a councilman in a killer clown's clutches. It ends a minute later with a Ramoning Reeves wanting to be sedated.
Thank you for that Ramones reference.
I was trying to work it into the outro somewhere. I was like, I can't quite do it. I'll just do it here.
As our resident punk god, I appreciated that.
Do have to ask though, Allison, and now because you are, of course, like quite a quite a couple of years younger than me and John, and probably like a lot of the guests we have on are around the same kind of age bracket as us too. But so now it's
I'm 23.
Yeah, you're the youth correspondent now for Batman.
Technically, I'm Gen Z. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Like older Gen Z, but
you being of a different generation, though, Allison. Like, what's your experience with Mask of the Phantasm and Batman the Animated Series in general? Because it was so seminal for like people of I and John generation, but. I would assume this lasted because it seems to have a big impact, but I don't know. Maybe the younger crew are all about the brave and the bold or something. They don't care about old Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill these days.
Oh, people care. So I would see reruns of it on Cartoon Network. And when I was a kid, I was like, it seems kind of scary. I don't know. I would watch bits and pieces, but I was kind of a softer sort of child. I liked things that were like cute and pretty and stuff like that. It wasn't until I was older that I started, I think when I was probably like 13, 14, I hit my kind of phase where I wanted to see like dark, gritty things. But by that point, I was like, cartoons are for babies at that point. Like early high school sort of age. But I just barely missed that sort of phase, though. So I was aware of it, but I didn't watch it as a kid. But I did see a few episodes. So
Yeah. But what about Mask of the Phantasm though? Like, are you a newcomer to it, or had you seen it previously?
I'm a newcomer. I've heard of it. And I've seen like little clips of it, but I never seen it in its entirety until now. So.
Oh, so what did you think?
I liked it. I thought it was good. Yeah, I thought it was really fast paced, which I enjoyed. I like the criminal intrigue, the mystery of it, because I feel like that's one of the big distinguishers of a true Batman movie is if it's a proper mystery, because he's a detective at the end of the day. Yeah. I was definitely surprised when it was revealed who the actual Phantasm is.
Oh,
I was like, oh, this. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't figure it out sooner. But like watching it, I was like, oh, this like. I'd say like my one gripe with it would be like I thought the romantic plotline was a little like boring.
Oh my God! Get off this podcast right now. my heart tears in two every time Bruce gets that Dear John letter.
Aw. Well, I like it when the romances are more based in experiences rather than immediate attraction. Like he sees her and he's immediately in love, and she sees him and immediately in love, and like she like jujitsu throws him, and it's like, oh my God, I'm in love.
That's
and
all
I'm
it
like,
takes.
That's all it takes. And I'm like, well, that doesn't feel as earned, I feel like.
Yeah.
You know?
Within minute 56, though, we do come in here and it's Joker just getting all up in Arthur Reeves' grill. Real invasion of personal space here.
Yeah, he's got him and he's bending him right over.
Yeah, and just the line he has as well of I think this is another little thing that he just used to like squeak past the censors, because I don't think he would have been able to get away with saying like, oh, I'll talk about the old man and the spawn of his loins just happens to call. Like, I don't think you could invoke the word loins in a children's show. They would be like, no, that's an adult word.
Like, I know it's technically a true statement as well, but Joker, it's revolting. Come on.
It is revolting. It's a little like dehumanizing as well to reduce someone to like the spawn of someone's loins. It's just like, oh yeah, you dripped out of this guy. Like that's what you are. Like, it's like, I mean, it's technically true, but it's gross and it's a bit demeaning.
It's the way Joker rolls.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like kids wouldn't know what loins are. They'd just be like, oh, spawn of a thing.
That's very true. Like, I think they get away with stuff like this. They do it with all kids stuff, really. They throw in jokes for the parents who are being forced to watch it with their child.
I think my favorite part of this minute, though, is the laugh. Like, that is such a good deranged laugh.
Oh, yeah.
It's not easy to do either.
No, because Hamill's, he's famous for his Joker laugh. Like, that's one of his crowning achievements.
I was talking about Reeves. Reeves, when he's like crazy. He's like,
okay. Oh, yeah. So you're like, oh, the hell, Mark Hamill. Like, this Hart Bachner is the guy where it's at.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, Mark Hamill, well-established good laugher.
It's an interesting contrast between their two laughs as well, because Joker's laugh, like, he does find it funny, but it's not really about that. It's more about, it's like an intimidation, isn't it? It's like, I have you now kind of a laugh. And then his...
Like father, like son, there, I guess.
Yeah, I have you now. Arthur's laugh is very different again. He's like being forced to do it, but it's like a scared laugh.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
It's like a weird tone to it.
It's just like all the effort, too, of Hart Bachner having to do, because that must have been like a good spate of recording, doing hysterical laughing. And I remember when we were on season 1. That's actually the thing, too, because you weren't on season 1, Allison, so this is your first spin with the Joker. Like, we were with the Joker for ages back in that movie.
We're sick of him.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember, we had on one of our recurring guests, who's an actress. And we were kind of like, oh, Jack Nicholson's so good. And then she's like, yeah, but consider, too, as a man in his 50s, having to throw himself around and do this boisterous, massive laugh all the time, probably take after take after take. Like, that would be so exhausting. Like, you're like, he earned his money, was what he did. And I was like, that's a fair point. And probably the same with Hart Bachner having to be in there going, like, revving himself up to do, like, for, like, ages and ages and ages.
Yeah, what it made me think of was I was in this scene that I was acting. I was in an acting class, and I had a friend who was in a directing class, and she was like, "Hey, can you act in this thing for my class?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then my professor was like, "Hey, you can get extra credit in the acting class if you act in the directing class." I'm like, "Cool." But there was a scene I needed to do a delirious laugh like that, and it was so hard for me because I laugh on the inhale, not on the exhale. Like I go like a instead of a ha ha ha. I laugh on the inhale, not the exhale. So my laughs don't make as much sound. They're more like like that. They're more breathy.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out I had to retrain myself to laugh different and make it sound like proper. Like,
Oh.
I'm like, wait, no, I can't. I only laugh on the inhale. Like it's still now it's hard. Yeah.
That's actually cool though, because you've identified what you want to change about it. That's acting right there.
Yeah. We never see anyone getting Smilex who has an inhale laugh. They always have to do the big pronounced ah ha 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 ha. You probably should have more people doing like the choking in of the air.
I want someone who just chuckles.
Yeah,
just chuckles.
Very visual. If Alfred was Smilex to the it's visual. So
Yes, someone gets like the Joker laugh thing, and they just like have like a really weird laugh, just like.
Oh God, or like Seth Rogen's laugh.
Oh,
no.
Like they're announcing Seth Rogen to be the next Batman. Like, no, don't put him up against the Joker. No,
that is some laugh. Oh my word.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, this is like the last, because this was released in cinemas. I think this will be the last time on the big screen where the Joker Venom's been employed as yet. Like, it's crazy that they've not used it more. I guess you've had since you had like all the Jared Leto. Did he use it? I don't think he used it. Heath Ledger definitely didn't use it because he was all carving the Chelsea daggers into people's cheeks and stuff. But it's and this scene proves like how good a concept it is and how terrifying it is, because like what happens to Arthur Reeves is so genuinely unpleasant. This is why I love this so much, is in terms of like, you have, stories about the Joker nowadays where it's like, he's killed like 1,000 people, and like, oh, he shot a kid, and he did this and that, he would carve you up, and blah, 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 blah. And that's all well and good. But all the implications here is just like, it's kind of censored, and it's all suggested. Because like when he, throws Artie back into the table, and he has, makes you want to laugh, doesn't it, Artie? And just, the big, the ominous, and just the way that's all shot. But then the shadow, to see it in shadow, him struggling with him. And if you actually look at it, it looks as if he thrusts something into him. It's not like, you kind of have to be like really paying attention to it. But it does seem as if the Joker's arm goes back and then violently goes forward, as if he's like, it wasn't through like the boutonniere that he got the gas into him. It's like he's obviously injected him with something. And just by showing it in shadow, it makes it more powerful almost. Like, it's because you're filling in the blanks. And this is a deliberate choice on their part, because this movie famously was like, you can have Batman kick the Joker's teeth out, and we'll show it on screen. You're not beholden to television censors anymore. But they clearly knew, like, no, it'll be more effective if you don't see exactly what happens to Arthur Reeves. You just sort of are made to understand that, like, there's thunder and lightning, and it's a big ominous, like, Nosferatu coming up the stairs, the shadow on there. They did it before in the actual, you were saying, Allison, about like you found like the animated series might have been too scary to watch. When I was a kid, I did watch it, and there was I've mentioned it several times because it's had such a scarring effect on me. The episode Feats of Clay, we have the origin of Clayface. And, he's just like an actor, and he gets like, gets on the wrong side of Roland Daggett, and who's like a big businessman / gangster, and he decides to kill him. And they go into this, this chemical lab, and he's got this stuff that will eventually turn Matt Hagen into Clayface. And it just has these two gangsters holding him down, and you just see them lifting up the thing. It goes over to the wall, and you see the shadows, and you see them pouring the stuff on his face. And it's just like Ron Perlman going like, no, And I was horrified as a kid because he was like, what are they doing to him? And it's like, how much is this messing him up and stuff? And just them doing that in shadow, I don't think it would have been as effective if they'd actually shown the stuff going on to his face and into his mouth. It's more by making you mentally fill it in.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. Like, and I think they knew that, and they're like, just do it here as well. Just
Well, I think when you actually see it, it's very boring because it's just, just spray him in the face with this stuff. And it's not very cinematic. Whereas now, like we can only imagine what the Joker did to him.
Yeah, it's like that one. I don't know, because you're a film aficionado yourself, Allison. Did you ever see The Black Cat with Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff?
Oh, it's so good.
Their big team up movies.
No, but I've heard the music from it, strangely enough.
Well, it's phenomenal. When's it from? The 30s, 40s?
It's like 30, 34. It's like pretty soon after, like Dracula, and you kind of assume like, oh, they must have taken years to get those guys together.
Nope.
That's like literally the next year, like get the two of them in.
I think like it's also. It's not just the mystery of not seeing it happen. It's also specifically because it's the Joker. Part of the Joker's appeal is like he almost seems superhuman. Like he's not even a real person. He's some sort of like magical godlike being who can just do these things to you, whether that be through like science or magic or who knows what. But like so you mentioned before that it's a shame that you don't see the laughing gas as much these days. But I think it specifically is well suited for animation because even like look just recently there was a movie, what was it called, like Smile? It was a horror movie where the people smile really big or something like that.
Oh yeah.
It was really recently, but people were clowning on that, saying it looks stupid because you look at a bad guy and they're just like smiling at you, and it's one of those things where like you either are scared of it or you like kind of laugh at it.
Yeah.
It's kind of silly, but in animation you could really make those really intense facial expressions and make it kind of believable. When you see those really extreme facial expressions on a person or the prosthetics on a person, it seems kind of corny, kind of silly.
Yeah.
But or you take it to the complete opposite route where you use really scary, grotesque makeup, but then it's a bit too scary, you know? It goes into more horror, but I think animation is well suited for a particular gimmick like that, where you can get those really, really expressive faces, those supernaturally expressive faces, while still being, without going beyond, like, belief.
But no, I do remember Smile coming out though, Allison, because I'm a big horror movie guy, and I remember seeing the trailer and actually thinking like, oh, that looks stupid as hell. I can't wait to see this. But I remember all the viral marketing for it was just like, like sports games and stuff, they just have people standing in the background doing the creepy smile. And I was like, oh, that's actually pretty clever. And then when you watch the movie, it actually does have something to it. Like you're going, like it's not.
It works.
Yeah, it's just like it's a kind of a rip off of The Ring, basically. But it's a smile demon attaches to you and then makes you, you see it coming, and it's just kind of like it follows, where it's like it's coming for you, but no one else can see it and stuff. And then when it gets you, they have the big creepy smile. And as they're going through it, they're like, oh, it's like a metaphor for like repressing your feelings and depression and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I see. There's actual message behind this Smile movie, so I would recommend it to people.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, I never saw it. I just remember people clowning on it and seeing it at sports games and just thinking it was like so goofy and hearing people talk about that. But yeah, I like it when they have metaphors like that, and that's bringing it back to Mask of the Phantasm. I like how there's that parallel with Andrea, wasn't that her name?
Yeah, Andrea. Yeah,
Andrea, that was it. Her and Batman of like coping with grief, where it's like, well, aren't you doing the same thing, getting revenge on the people who do bad things? And it's like, oh, it's different, but I like those sorts of parallels where you can tie it back to grief, which is universal.
Well, speaking though of I don't know if you over the mindset if Arthur Reeves is going to die here. I did note though, again, because I watched that that Superman animated series, the episodes featuring the Joker just the other day, and then I have noted throughout rewatching a lot of BTAS that like usually the Joker Venom's pretty fast acting, like he bursts out laughing, and it seems as if they always say when it was on TV that you don't die, they just they have an antidote and you're okay. It's very clearly implied. It's very clearly implied. The people lying there with their eyes wide, bugging out of their heads wide, they're clearly dead. Like, and they had to say, no, they're fine.
Wink. They're going to be all right, kids.
Yeah. But they had one in that the World's Finest episode where someone's Joker venomed, and like doctors are going like, yeah, it's like they're brain dead as well. Like they're just like snapping the fingers in front of the guy's eyes, and he's just lying there grinning, going. Oh. And the implication is like, oh yeah, so and it seems to be pretty fast acting. From that, then I'm getting like, well, maybe what the Joker's done here is because he wants to make this even worse for Arthur Reeves. He's maybe given him like a sort of modified dosage. So it's like, oh, he'll slowly laugh himself to death. Like it'll take hours, but he will die eventually. It's just going to take a long time to get there. Because he wants him. And maybe Sal Valestra died too quickly because he was an old, emphysemic man. And he's like, I didn't really get a kick out of that. But if something I knew was going to take like 5 hours, that would be pretty good.
I think that's one of the neat things about Batman, like the very complex canon there, is that you see many different versions and interpretations like that. Whereas like one of the downsides of the MCU is that everything's kind of stuck in one canon.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do a reimagined version of another character. I mean, like they kind of did that with Thor, but people already criticize that. So it's like you're stuck with one vision of a character. But with a Batman material, I think people kind of come to expect that whatever Batman you see may not be the same as the last Batman you saw.
Yeah.
You know, the experiences they have, and, you know, whether it be that there's a cure, there's not a cure, you're brain dead, there's hope for you. It varies, and that's one of the fun things about going to see a Batman movie is you never know what approach they're going to take. And, you know, like you were saying before with the Joker, people complaining like, oh yeah, Joker was never like this. It's like, what do you mean? Joker's never been like anything. He's whatever they wanted him to be in that particular situation.
That was a big thing.
There's 8 million Jokers. I mean, read the comics, people. Come on, there's billions of these. They're all different.
So I remember like people complaining when they first saw pictures of Heath Ledger going like, what's he got the black around his eyes for? And you're like, he's got his black around his eyes, and they all go, wait, you're just complaining for the sake of complaining now. Like, go like, oh, the Joker I saw didn't have black around his eyes. Like, yes, he did. Look at that, for Christ's sake.
You've hit the nail on the head. They're complaining for the sake of complaining. People love to complain and feel like they're part of the discourse.
Yes.
Says us hosting a podcast. But, you know, we're putting effort in. We're not just tweeting.
But yeah, so but you do get then obviously the ominous laugh. As I say in there too, like the shadow work, which is very like in the spoilers for the end of the Black Cat, but it ends with Bela Lugosi slicing off Boris Karloff's face, but you see it all in shadow, and it's so famous that like a lot of like the big like John Landis and like Rob Zombie and stuff will cite that. It's like, oh, that messed me up because like you don't see anything, but the implication is that you're seeing the silhouette of a guy getting his face chopped off. So it's kind of, I wouldn't be surprised if they're big. They're old school Universal horror guys, the BTAS crew. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if like, yeah, there's a little Black Cat in the scene. But of course, then we do get the Joker a version of Joker's laugh. Of course, Mark Hamill has many variations he's done. And he particularly actually honed the laugh years prior on Broadway. Because I don't know if either of you are aware, but he was actually on... much like he took over the role of the Joker in this from Tim Curry, who got fired, he took over the role of Mozart in Broadway's Amadeus from Tim Curry. You know, like way back in the early 80s. If you look into it, they're just like, they're really plugging the fact that it's the guy from Star Wars in Amadeus.
Hey, you've got to lean into it. Why not?
Yeah. But I don't know, have you seen Amadeus, like the film, Allison?
Oh, I love it. So good.
Yeah. But so he, you know, obviously you can get a sense then from that. Like, if people aren't aware, it's about, what's his name? Salieri is like sort of an older composer.
Yeah.
Played in the movie by F. Murray Abraham. And then Ian McKellen played him opposite Tim Curry, which would have been like, what? You've got Tim Curry and Ian McKellen and Amadeus. That's amazing.
That is phenomenal.
But yeah, he hates Mozart because he's the young, upstart, insanely talented composer that everybody loves, and he seems to be supernaturally gifted at what at this stuff. And he has, what's even worse, a really annoying laugh. So in the movie, it's like Tom Holson, he just has this kind of like will just burst out in this really annoying Like, ugh. Like, you understand why everyone's like, Jesus, what the hell's...
Oh, he's
like,
quite a repulsive character, really.
Yeah. And even all the people who were, like, fawning over him were all like, what's the deal with that laugh? Like, that's terrible. And so, yeah, Mark Hamill was... He had to go out on Broadway for, like, many performances. Trying to come up with goofy, silly laughs. And he's very dedicated to, like, you don't just do one. Because he's very against, like, becoming robotic in his performances. Like, he's always talked about, like, no, you have to keep it interesting for yourself and do things differently every time. Because if you go into a rhythm and you just do it by default, it'll still work for the audience because they don't know. They've never seen it before. But, you'll start to die inside as an actor a bit. So, but yeah, he actually... Yeah. But yeah, he has a quote talking about how this helped him and his Joker laugh. And so he said, like, I had done Mozart in Amadeus in the first national tour, and then they transferred me over to Broadway. And one of the things that's relevant to my audition for the Joker is that Mozart had this sort of ghastly laugh that threw everybody. I played with that laugh a lot. I do a little Dwight Fry, who of course was Igor, or Fritz in the original Frankenstein. So again, going back to that old, the old horror stuff. I do a little Sidney Greenfield. I love all those old Warner Brother movies. So I was just slipping people in. Sometimes I get notes like, it's a little too Jerry Lewis at the matinee, reel it back. And I'm telling you this because in retrospect, after getting the part, I asked Andrea Romano, who's the voice director of this movie, how did I get it? Like, what was the process? How did you know that you wanted me? And she said, that laugh. And I didn't want to get pigeonholed into a specific laugh. With the Joker, this is an artist with a very big palette. And I want a range of laughs. So one thing that struck me was when Frank Gorshin was talking about the Riddler, when played him in the 60s TV show, I was reading a lot about him, and he said a lot of the times it's not that the Riddler laughs, it's what he laughs at.
Yes, that makes it go from... Because if he just laughs when something's funny, that's not scary.
Yeah. So then he just ends by saying, like, oh, that's interesting. If I can find places to open a little window into the psyche of this psycho, I'm going to use that. So that's why with this, it's more of it's a very slow, vindictive laugh. It
builds, doesn't it?
Yeah. Whereas at the end, when it disappears with Andrea, he has a real, like, and yeah, it changes every time. Depending, it's a guy with a paintbrush that is his laugh, and he goes crazy with it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's what he laughs at, that's what you get the fear from. I remember when I, like I said before, when I had to do my own delirious laugh, what finally got me into it was a memory of when I was, I think, 15, and my dog had died a few days ago. Ooh. And when I was in class, and somebody mentioned something about dogs, and suddenly it was, those moments when, like, your brain just kind of breaks and you just laugh at something really inappropriate.
Oh God, all the time.
And I just go, my dog died a few days ago. And then I just burst it. It was like my brain broke right there. Yeah. It was surreal. Like I said, some people kind of laugh when there's so much feelings going on, so many feelings going on. But that's what finally got it for me. And when I kind of thought back to that memory and was able to do that good, delirious, crazy sort of laugh, was remembering that moment. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from. The idea of, your brain just kind of breaking and doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
In that moment.
Do you ever have, like, because obviously nowadays I don't think anybody finds clowns charming.
No, like, who did? Whoever
I think it's completely. It used to be such a, like, back in the day of Bozo the Clown, it's like, oh, an innocuous children's performer. And now it's like they're terrifying. Why would anyone want a clown? Have you ever had, what's it called, like coulrophobia, like the fear of clowns? Like, what do you think about clowns in general, Allison?
I never had a fear of clowns, but I had some fears of clown-like things. Where I think part of the fear of clowns is the uncanny valley of, like, a person that does not look like a proper person. But I remember when I was 5 years old, my family took me and my brother to Disney World, and I was really creeped out by the people who are like Mickey Mouse and, like, the big face mask where you don't see the mouths move and you don't see the eyes blink or the faces move, but it's like these characters that you recognize and know and love, but they don't move right, you know, or you see like Woody and Jesse and they're like ginormous and like their eyes don't blink and their mouths don't move and they don't talk. They just kind of gesture at you to come towards them to give them a hug for a picture. And I'm like, no, stay away from me.
I've always found those so weird because yet kids are expecting them to be small. Because they're small in the movie.
Yeah.
So what are they doing?
Yeah, you
what
just
the
see
hell?
ginormous Woody won't talk to you, isn't moving or blinking, or like moving his face, and he's like gesturing toward you to like come pose for a picture with him. Like, no, stay away. So I think that's kind of the fear with clowns, is that sort of creepiness of that's a person but not a proper person.
Yeah. I think it's because there's been like proper studies done into like why people are like that, and it's like it's going back to. Like people, like, a clown seems to indicate a lack of empathy, because if you're trying, you can't empathize with someone who just has this rictus grin in their face all the time, and it's just like, always looks as if they're smiling at you. They don't seem to have your best interests in heart, so people have an immediate disconnect right there. And even going back to like, you know, even the concept of like the court jester was just like the one person who could break all the rules, so the jester could make fun of the king and get away with it. So inherently, you know, jesters, you can't trust them because they're the one person who can get away with doing whatever the hell they want.
And they were actually very important in court. They weren't like made fun of. It's like, no, they make fun of you.
Yeah,
like they're like the king's good friend.
Yeah. I think it's because even like in like olden days in France, they used to have like comedy performers show up at funerals, to make fun of the dead, to kind of like alleviate the tension. And so people now associate like, they're kind of dressed in clown outfits. So again, now you're associating clowns with death and the disrespect for people and all that kind of thing. So culturally, it's built up in people's minds have been like. Yeah, I don't like these guys.
I'm with you 100%. But I have noticed lately because I'm chronically online. Listeners might know this if they follow me anywhere. I'm online all the time. I've noticed that a big thing, especially on Instagram, is people being clown girls. It's like, it's like it's almost like a fetishy thing. So I think maybe younger people have come around on this, and now they like clowns in a different way.
You are our youth correspondent, Allison. Have you noticed clown girls?
I have not heard of this trend. I have not heard of this trend. No.
Well, get looking it up on Instagram. It's interesting, shall we say?
So you're hanging out with the youth. Can you infiltrate the clown girl posses and report back with your findings?
Yeah, write a full report.
No shame on anyone if that's what you like. No shame.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no shame. I think another thing that reminds me of the idea of like somebody's too happy and it kind of sets off an alarm bell in your head is sometimes people ask about like, oh, why do girls go for the bad boys and not the nice guys? And it's like, I think there's something creepy sometimes or unsettling when you see somebody who's too nice.
Agreed.
Whereas somebody who wears their flaws on their sleeve, we know that everybody has flaws, but people who wear their flaws on the sleeve, you can at least evaluate those flaws and see, okay, is that something I can work with, or is that someone I can still be cool with? But if somebody's being too nice and too friendly and too perfect, it kind of sets off some alarm bells where you're like, okay, what are you hiding?
That's it.
What is it that you don't want me to see?
It feels totally false because everybody's flawed. And nobody's happy all the time. So whenever I meet someone there's someone I work with like this, I'm not going to name names. I mean, they're not listening, but, and she's just always super happy and chirpy and nice. And it's like, shut up.
It's like, you can't be, your mind goes to, you can't be that happy all the time, naturally.
No.
So you must be hiding something from me.
Yeah.
But it's just an inherent distrust. I'm like, it smiles that wide too consistently. I don't buy it. I don't believe any of it. But I know even, like, I didn't actually realize until recently that, like, Ronald McDonald's gone. They got rid of that. Like, him as a spokesperson for McDonald's. He's been gone the last, like, 7 years or something.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Because of the people out, that thing in 2016 where people are out, like, the phantom clowns.
Get a clown girl in. There you go.
Because, well, maybe that's the new. But then now you get people going like, "Oh, McDonald's has gone woke. They've got a girl, Ronald McDonald now, man. Oh, it'll be a whole big thing." You know what? You want the internet going.
No, you know what? Good. If those people are annoyed, good. I want those people to be angry all the time because I hate them.
Yeah, but then they might be like the people who go to McDonald's every day, so they're like, oh, good, okay. But now, even now though, currently you have the whole thing with Grimace killing people.
Oh,
That's
I love
the current
Grimace.
meme as the time of recording is Grimace going around slaughtering people over his Grimace shake, apparently. So I don't know, people just really want McDonald's mascots to turn sinister, I guess.
I've always loved Grimace. He's the best one. Stick with him.
He's another spin-off of the Joker, though. He's like, oh, Ronald McDonald, clown, Grimace, purple. There you go. That's all.
Well, we get Arthur, experiencing some excitement. He gets sedated with a needle, which, I do work in a mental health hospital, and we don't often use these for sedation, but it is a thing.
Yeah.
Could be like a lorazepam injection or something like that.
I just assume just like they'll have to give him some sort of muscle relaxant, because I think the Smilex is like a nerve drug. I think to say it. So they'll have to get something that won't kill him, like a muscle relaxant that'll also sedate at the same time. But I don't know if they're trying to send him to sleep. I think they're just like, okay, now we've calmed you down.
Yeah, or like chill him out a little.
Yeah, just chill for a while, basically.
Well, we do offer believe it or not, ketamine is used in the hospital. Yeah. Obviously under strict supervision, but I imagine that might have a similar kind of effect to what this is doing.
Well, I do know there's several people who used to use Ket all the time recreationally, so I can go and ask them.
Yeah, go get their opinions.
We'll just talk about the K-holes. They're just like, oh yeah, trapped in the K-hole last night, man. That was terrible.
Yeah. So I'm curious, since you guys were you were kids when you first watched this, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was the right age to have, but I actually didn't see it until recently. Like that's the big shocking thing of this season.
Huh. Yeah, so as a child, what do you think is scarier, the part of like Joker doing the laughing thing on him, or afterwards being in the hospital strapped down with like laughing like that, like the before or the after? Which do you think is scarier?
I think it's the after. I think this is this is so well done, and like they're kind of drip feeding you little bits to sort of emphasize how horrible it is. Like they cut into, you see like people who work in a hospital who have probably seen people like getting gunshot and stabbed and stuff coming in all the time, and they're hearing this roaring laughter, and they're like, these two guys downstairs are like looking up and like, Jesus, what is that? Like, what's he going through? And then everything but him struggling and having to hold him down, and just the emphasis then of like the nurse coming over and him kicking the tray out of her hand and stuff, and it's just the real like showing you how like how much he's spasming, and she just can't, like there's tears just flying out of his eyes, and it's really, I was like, oh, this would be a horrible way to go, just to like not be able, because I've had uncontrollable laughter in the past when someone just, and times it can get really bad where you're just like, you want to stop laughing because it's starting to hurt, but this thing is like, it's not gonna stop because it's designed to keep you going for hours, I guess. Well,
I agree though, right? I agree this is scarier, this after bit, but is that because we are grown with life experience and we know how horrible this situation would be? I think as a kid, I might find just the Joker bit scary. Oh, it's the Joker. I might not fully understand the implication of everything going on in this particular section. Yeah.
Well, what do you think was scarier, Allison? Where did you fall on it?
I'd probably say that the aftermath. I think there's this like innate like horror in the idea of no longer being in control of your mind and body. But it's in a more grounded way. I mean, like you see a lot of movies and shows and stuff with like people getting possessed by ghosts or whatever, but you know that that's never going to happen to you in real life, or so they want you to think, haha. But the idea of your brain just kind of malfunctioning like that, and then like I know one guy who he apparently had like a tumor that was growing in his brain, and then one day he took a nap and he woke up and he couldn't see because the tumor had grown into his like optical nerves. And so he just woke up one day and couldn't see, and they got the tumor out, but he's never been able to see ever since. But that's such a horrifying idea that like your body could just malfunction like that.
Yeah. Well, that's the scary thing about tumors and cancer and things. It's literally your body just literally turning against itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
No.
But it's also like grounded, the idea of like laughing yourself to death like that. You know, your brain malfunctioning that particular kind of way. Like you can imagine that happening to someone.
Yeah. I think it's just like it's the way they've done them too. Like just to have a one where there's one point where he takes like a real wheezing intake and his head proper throws back into the pillow and stuff, and it's just really. They've obviously really studied like how to convey this properly through animation.
Yeah,
it's not just as generic. Like they've gone in and tried to go like, well, go find somebody with uncontrollable laughter, or try to see what we can do there. But
well, speaking of Joker Venom, right? Did we ever talk? We might have done. Correct me here. Did we ever talk about the crossover with Marvel about Joker Venom?
We might well have done, but if it was back in '89, that was like 5 years ago now. So,
I was looking it up, and I have a little section here from the Batman Wiki, which I found interesting, because it says Marvel Comics has an apparent equivalent to Joker Venom in the form of Red Skull's Dust of Death, a chemical which turns the head of its victim into a red skull, resembling that of Red Skull.
How ironic!
Ironic. In a crossover, the Red Skull and the Joker face off against one another. And the Joker gets angry when he learns that he has unwittingly worked for a Nazi.
Oh.
He says, I may be a criminal lunatic, but I'm an American criminal lunatic. And they use their toxins on each other, basically, in the battle. And they realize that the toxins are useless against each other, as both combatants are immune, basically, to these, because they use Red Skull uses the Joker's one on the Joker, and Joker uses Red Skull's one on Red Skull, and they're all very similar at chemical level and all. So basically, it's just completely useless. They don't get anywhere with it. Like, oh god damn it, I'm trying to kill you, you piece of crap.
Like, wait a minute, if I swap over yours with mine and maybe we blend the two together, maybe it was wait a minute, let's just time out, let's go down and try to sort this out.
I just thought that was shocking. I didn't realize they'd really done many things like that. That was
they have had more crossovers than you think. It seems like such a big thing. Oh, you never mix those two things together, but no, it's happened a couple of times over the years. Yeah,
we need it in film.
I'm sure it's coming. I can guarantee within the next 20 years. Disney will buy Warner Brothers. And when they do that, that means they own DC. And that means you can finally get Iron Man versus Batman.
But then the hilarity of that is, of course, people always joke. Well, not joke. I mean, people claim that Walt Disney was a Nazi. So would Joker be angry? I don't know.
I was thinking that's in actually talking about, like, saying earlier that... within the continuity of the Batman anime series, Batman is forced to sing at one point in a Justice League episode when Wonder Woman's turned into a pig, and it's all big magical shenanigans and stuff. But like the one thing that like the bad guy will, they're like, oh, I'll turn Diana back, but you have to do something for me, Batman. And it's just like Batman goes out in a nightclub and starts, it's Kevin Conroy doing this real like, am I blue, like in the cape and stuff, and it's a thing he loved doing. So the amount of Comic-Con appearances you'll see Kevin Conroy just going up the mic and start doing like, am I blue? And the audience going crazy for it and stuff.
Amazing.
But just remember when Mark Hamill was on The Muppet Show way back when, he did like 79 or something, I guess, because he's in the Luke Skywalker fatigues from Empire. So I guess it would have been...
that's such a good episode.
Oh, he's amazing in it because he's having such a great time. Like, never has a man enjoyed being on the Muppets more than Mark Hamill back in.
Oh, yeah, I disagree. I've seen every episode. I'm a big Muppet fan, but they did work a lot with like actors to say what do you want to do on the show. And I remember seeing this interview where they with the head writer Jerry Jewell, where he said that what people usually want to do is the opposite of what they're known for, or like a hidden talent. Like if somebody's known for being a dramatic actor, they'd be like, I want to do something with comedy. Or if somebody's known for being a comedian, they say like, I want to show off my musical skills. So I always thought that was really interesting how people wanted to do that sort of thing. It's kind of counterintuitive to what you see on a lot of talk shows today, where they're like, we want to show people what people want to see from those people. But then one of the appeal of the Muppet Show was that people oftentimes did the opposite. Like Mark Hamill was doing a lot of comedy and singing. It was interesting. That has a really good opening too, where he's like, like Mark Hamill goes in, and he's like, Luke Skywalker, and I forget how it all goes, but they mix up the two people, and then there's like an evil twin sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Luke Skywalker is my cousin, but then like I'm Mark Hamill.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
But I think though at the end, because he comes out like he's not. They all start singing, but I think Mark Hamill's miming. It doesn't look like he's really hamming it up and stuff. He's hammering it up, I guess.
Oh.
But it was just the irony because they're singing "When You Wish Upon a Star." It's like 3PO's there, and you're just kind of seeing it's like, oh, this is all gonna come true. Like it's like the Star Wars characters singing a Disney song. It's like they knew back then. They even knew that this was gonna get taken over by Disney. Although it's weird though, because I don't think Mark Hamill sings in that episode, but when he was on, he did a couple of different Broadway stints, and one of them was he did something called Harrigan and Hart, which only lasted 25 performances because apparently it was terrible. But it was a musical that he was in, and so I tried looking up. Is there any footage of this? I was like, yeah, little like VHS snippets. But I'm wondering if it closed because Mark Hamill is not a singer and he was cast in a musical, and everyone was like, ooh.
Well, sometimes, like, if you deliver your musically sung lines with a certain charisma, like you look at Moana, The Rock has You're Welcome, but I think that's a really good example of that, how The Rock is not a singer, but he has that sort of charisma where he kind of sings his lines, and it works for that character.
Yeah. Although, I've heard Hamill singing as the Joker, too, like in The Killing Joke and stuff. He has to sing a song, but he's just sing talking in a Joker voice. It's like no one's going to be judging his pipes there, really. They're like, well, I guess he sounds like what he's supposed to sound like, but his other Broadway senses, like he did something called The Nerd in the late 80s, which was about a guy just finding out that their friends, their ex-GI Vietnam friend is now a nerd.
It makes you think of The Simpsons with Rene Wolfcastle. Unfortunately, he's a nerd.
Oh yeah, they help my son as a nerd. Is that where they were getting it from? But yeah, he also famously took over from Bowie on The Elephant Man back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So they used to do a stage version of the Elephant Man with no makeup or anything. It was just the actor would have to kind of contort their body and stuff. And Bowie played it very famously, and then the next guy after him was Mark Hamill, and apparently that didn't go well either. It closed after 3 weeks, but I don't think that's his fault. I think that was the show was just going that way anyway. When apparently we signed up, they started plastering over like the Elephant Man posters, like "The Force Continues on Broadway" and stuff. They're really like, if you look at anything about Mark Hamill in the 80s, they're just constantly like, "It's Luke Skywalker, everybody!"
Hey, exploit it while you can.
When he played Mozart in Amadeus on stage, they were making the movie at the time, and he's like, "I'm in. Like, Return of the Jedi is filmed in the can. I'm free to do what I want." And he went up to Milos Forman, who of course directed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which stars Jack Nicholson. Everything's connected. And also Man in the Moon, which stars Jim Carrey and Danny DeVito. Everything's connected.
Connected.
Yeah. And Mark Hamill talks about it in interviews where he's like, "Yeah, I was on there going like, I think like because Milos Forman's like Czechoslovakian." And he's like, "Oh, so can I audition? Can I come in for Mozart?" And Milos was like, "Oh, no. The Luke Skywalker cannot be the Mozart in my movie. Oh, no. He'd be too distracting." He does a big extravagant impersonation of him because apparently Milos Forman's a very extravagant kind of guy. Which is why him and Jim Carrey did not get on during Man on the Moon. Two massive personalities.
Oh yeah, I saw the documentary about the making of that movie. I didn't actually see the movie, but I saw the documentary about it.
I think the documentary is like better than the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a big eccentric director meets absolutely psychotic actor. It's like, I don't think this is gonna go well. It's like it's weird when Courtney Love is like the most sane person on set. I think it was the message of that documentary. But yeah, so that's an indication, though. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what happened to him. It's like, "I'm Luke Skywalker." And then everyone was like, "Yeah, you're Luke Skywalker. I can't hire you because everybody knows you from that. So, see ya." And yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, obviously then we have, like, Reeves is suitably sedated. And hopefully that just means he's going to calm down and everything's going to run very smoothly.
Everything's solved. Problem solved. Yeah, done.
But that's all my notes for
Terrific.
minute 56. Does anyone have any notes specific to minute 56?
Noted out here.
Yeah, I got all my notes have been hit as well.
Yeah, but one thing we are asking though, Allison, and now I'm genuinely curious though, because you are a few generations removed from me and John. We are asking the guests, because obviously Batman, big show when we were growing up. We're asking the guests what their other favorite animated shows were back in the day, and it's like now I am feeling like you're gonna make me feel ancient, and you're gonna come out with a bunch of stuff I've never heard of. But,
Yeah, it's stuff that I think back on is stuff from like 2008, 2010, that sort of stuff, which is somewhat old. I don't know. I was I also do a lot of reading, and my cousin, she was doing a summer reading thing, and she gave me this list, and she's like, oh yeah, what's good? And I was looking at it, and I see a section called classics, and I'm imagining seeing like The Hobbit on there.
Yeah.
But then I see like Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, which I grew up on. I'm like, that's in the classics.
No, that's
Percy
not
Jackson,
allowed.
That's 2005. That's not classic yet.
yeah, we're there at that stage now though. You're seeing like, oh, vintage rock is like playing The Hives. You're like, what?
No, not yet. But yeah, my favorite animated shows when I was growing up were definitely like Adventure Time, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Amazing World of Gumball, Steven Universe, a lot of stuff like that. Occasionally regular show, but
These are basically all of the best things from the last 15 years.
Yeah. Throw in Gravity Falls there. You got the whole set, I think. Really.
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't watch Disney Channel because I am a younger sibling, and I was the sort of younger sibling who did whatever my brother did. Like, and if he would say, "Oh, Disney Channel's for babies," I'd say, "Yeah," what he said, and then I would not watch it. Or he thought that SpongeBob was stupid and cringe, so I was like, "Yeah," what he said. So I just didn't watch whatever he didn't watch, and like that.
Yeah.
So I never watched Disney Channel growing up, but yeah, I'm
was
sure
the
I would have
same.
liked Gravity Falls though. Yeah. And these days you are seeing like, I say these days as in like, as opposed to 2010, but you see a lot more allowing people to experiment a little more, put their own spin on things. I remember I once had a writing professor for screenwriting, and he would say that if you wanted to be a successful writer in the 90s or the 80s or most other times, then what you would do is you would look at what's popular and then you would write that. Like, if Die Hard's popular, then you write a movie like Die Hard. But these days, if you want to be a successful writer, you got to write a story that only you can write. A story that nobody else is writing right now. Something completely unique to stand out. And then once you get on people's radars for that, then you get hired for like The Mandalorian season 20. But these days, if you want to start from scratch and build your way up as a writer, you have to do the opposite. You have to write something completely unique, a story that nobody else is telling right now.
I don't believe you've got a story that only you can tell in the works yourself, Allison. So
Yes, I do. A tale's tale, a mermaid's tale.
Is that what it's called?
Yes, it is.
Oh, that's great.
Amazing. I'm sold instantly on that.
I know. Yeah, I was. It's a mermaid comedy, but I was talking to my brother about titles. And I was saying how you look at all these mermaid movies and they always use the pun, so a mermaid's tale, and they always use that pun and they always think they're so clever. And then he just giggles and he goes, a tale's tale, a mermaid's tale. And I said, I'm sold. That's it. That's the title now.
You
it's
couldn't
the sort
ask
of
for
thing
more.
that you see the title on Netflix and it jumps out at you immediately, and you're like, "What is this thing? A tale's tale, a mermaid's tale." It's fun to say.
I do normally ask for plugs, but I suppose Alison, you've plugged what you wanted to plug. Would you like to tell people where they can find you online? You don't have to if you want to remain secret. Don't worry. But if people want to get in touch or anything.
Yeah, check out my Instagram. It's at Allison Closs, so at ALLICLOSS. I still go by Allison, but I just like to fuse the name, first and last name together. They're like, "Oh, do you like to go by Allie?" And I'm like, "No, it doesn't sound nice. It's like, Allie, it's harsh sounds." But yeah, at ALLICLOSS on Instagram if you want to check out what I have going on. Send me a DM, say you have a cool voice. I have a few blind friends, actually, and they say that I have a cool voice that's very emotive. So I like unique compliments like that.
That is it. That's a great compliment to get, isn't it? Holy crap.
Yeah. Or saying, like, you have very distinct footsteps. They're light, but focused and determined.
It is weird how when when you are around someone a lot, you do sort of tune into their footsteps. Even if you can see, you hear someone coming and you're like, I know those feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're like, Allison, you're very purposeful but light. It's like you walk like you walk like someone who is like 6'6", even though I'm 5'3". So
maybe that's the same walk that Andrea Beaumont has. That's how she got away with the Phantasm.
That's how she got away with it.
Have you heard those footsteps? It's clearly her dad. Like, what are you talking about?
We've cracked it. We've cracked the case. But yes, do get in touch with Allison there, and get in touch with us on Facebook at the Bat Minute Listeners Cave, Twitter at Bat Minute, Instagram The Bat Minute. We're on Threads. I've made a Threads account, Niall.
See if Threads is still a thing when this episode airs.
Don't know
if it will be.
Doing well so far. I mean, as of recording, what's it got? 70 million people have signed up to it.
Wow, just for our account. That's amazing.
Just for us. We have 70 million followers on Threads. Because of the way Threads works, it is the same as Instagram, The Bat Minute. And check out our network, Sleepy Charlie Media, on Patreon, where you can get bonus content, exciting stuff like us reviewing The Flash or doing a commentary track for Beetlejuice or whatever the hell you want. We've got loads of stuff. Go check it out. And we will be back again next time for minute 57 of Bat Minute of the Phantasm. See you then, Batmites.
Next time, Arthur... Booby, I'm your Dark Knight. It seems Reeves is on the eve of literally busting a gut with an emergency serving of sedatives administered to make him stay put. But as the contemptible councilman chokes back his chortles and settles down to rest, which outside hours visitor will swing by to deliver some duress? It's a real laugh riot next week, folks. Same Bat Pod. Different Bat Minute.
I must have top, stiff it,